Okay, dear colleagues, should we start? It's my great pleasure to chair this session. Thank you, Dr. Sanja, for this, for honoring and delegating this honorable task to me. We have three panelists on this panel. So it's Dr. Sanja Arezina, who is a counselor with the government of the Republic of Serbia, who holds the scientific rank of Research Associate Assistant Professor at Belgrade University, and is to 2020-2021 Global Asia Fellow at the University of Hong Kong. She graduated at the Department of International Relations at the Faculty of Political Sciences of the University of Belgrade, with magisterial studies at the European Department of the same faculty, Regional Policy of the European Union, and obtained a PhD degree with thesis relations between PR China and Yugoslavia and Serbia from 1977 to 2009. She has also finished studies at Chinese Academy of Governments in Beijing, PR China, Academy of European Law in Trier, Germany, and Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences, China. Dr. Arezina is active in academic writing by publishing books and peer-reviewed articles on a number of topics, attending scientific conferences and giving lectures to civil servants, students, and scholars at domestic and international level. Her main areas of interest are China issues, European Union, and international negotiation. Her book, China in Europe, both in Serbian and English, published in October-November 2018. Dr. Arezina, without further ado, please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. I would like to greet all distinguished speakers and guests and to thank the organizers for the invitation. Nu shimeng, xiang shimeng, xia wu hao. 我很荣幸有机会今天下午跟贵宾参加这个论坛。So today I will speak about China as a responsible great power and the Health Silk Road as the new component of the Belt and Road Initiative in the pandemic world. At the beginning of 2020, we all witnessed the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, and very quickly all countries found themselves in an unfavorable situation due to reduced health capacities, insufficient knowledge about the virus, and insufficient medical protective equipment. After the presence of the virus was found in China, as well as the fact that it could be transmitted from person to person, the Chinese leadership very quickly introduced protective measures such as lockdown, movement restrictions, suspensions of road, rail, and air transport from An to Wuhan, but also in other parts of China. As soon as it managed to fight the virus and start the economy, China started to give assistance to other countries, which consisted of providing medical assistance to developed and developing countries, sending mobile medical teams to advise countries on the optimal organization of their health systems, and organizing online conferences to advise medical professionals worldwide. While some countries appreciated Beijing's assistance in battling with the COVID-19 virus, the pandemic has raised accusations by some Western countries that China is seeking to exploit the health crisis and to politicize healthcare by creating and promoting China's Health Silk Road in order to expand geopolitical influence, enhance soft power offensive, reduce the negative narrative about China, and prevent the spread of accusations against China for negligent conduct during the COVID-19 pandemics. So during my speech, I will try to show that the main reason for the rapid development of China's Health Silk Road within the Belt and Road Initiative was the intention of the Chinese leadership to show that China is a responsible great power that contributes to solving important global problems and not the politicization of the pandemic or other accusations. I will do this by proving that since the founding of the PR China in 1949, The Chinese leadership has worked to develop health diplomacy as an important foreign policy tool, and that China's Health Silk Road as a component of the Belt and Road Initiative has begun to develop 5 years later, before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's see how China's health diplomacy was involved. During my research, I performed 7 periods of development of Chinese health diplomacy. The first period lasted from 1949 to the end of the 1950s. It was a period leaning to one-side diplomacy when health cooperation between China and the Soviet Union was developed. During this period, the Soviet Union sent the assistance to 2 pharmaceutical factories in China, while Chinese students and technicians were sent to the Soviet Union for studying and training, which provided a reservoir of health professionals for the future development of China. The second period, the fight against the hegemony of the superpower, the US and the Soviet Union, lasted from the end of the 1950s to the end of the 1960s. And during this period, anti-American imperialism and anti-Soviet revisionism began to grow in China. So the Chinese leadership gradually enhanced its efforts to win and sustain independence, its diplomatic relations with the countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, supporting them in their efforts to win and sustain independence. And of course, offering them political and material assistance, including the dispatch of medical teams. Over the last 70 years, Chinese medical teams in the developing world have gone through enormous hardship to emerge with a remarkable success. The third period lasted from the end of the 1960s until the end of the 1970s. During this period, China and the US were united against the Soviet Union, and Henry Kissinger said that Beijing and Washington made some kind of marriage of convenience. During this period, China began to develop multilateral health diplomacy, regaining its UN membership status and joining other international organizations such as the WHO, continuing to provide even more bilateral health care to developing countries. The period of pragmatism in China's foreign policy, led by famous reformator Deng Xiaoping, lasted from the end of the 1970s to the end of 1990s. In that period, there was a decrease in the influence of ideology of China's foreign policy and the development of reform and opening up policy in 1978, which resulted in a further entry into international organizations and pushing forward comprehensive health diplomacy, both bilateral and multilateral. The fifth period began in the 21st century and lasted until 2017 with the arrival of Donald Trump as the US president. And this period was marked by globalization, China's effort to establish a harmonious society inside and harmonious world outside, and coexistence between China and the United States. During this period, non-traditional health security threats emerged, and China realized that it had to take on a more proactive role, both internally and externally. As a part of the continued development of comprehensive health diplomacy, China has enhanced its cooperation with international organizations. So in 2015, launched a new multilateral component within the Belt and Road Initiative, the Health Silk Road. The sixth period began in 2017 and lasted until 2020. And during this period, although China set high goals with its Healthy China 2030 strategy and the Health Silk Road project, China still lacks a voice in health diplomacy and is not active enough in formulating its health strategy. Finally, the last seventh period began with the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemics in 2020. And we can say that this period is marked by the geopolitical competition between the US and China, and the robust China's health diplomacy, which has provoked differing opinions from countries around the world. So I found that various factors influenced the development of China's health diplomacy over decades of China's development, such as the relations with the great powers, regaining its UN membership status in 1971, and China's need to strengthen its bilateral relations globally and prevent the recognition of Taiwan, reform and opening up policy, the end of the Cold War, China's economic straightening that lead to perception of China as an emerging power, multilateral diplomacy, cooperation with WHO and other international organizations, and problems with WHO's cutting its already insufficient budget in 2011. And finally, improving domestic and the global health, because prevention of the new pandemic is very important for the national and international security through bilateral cooperation, as well as assistance to developing and least developed countries. Regarding China's Health Silk Road, after the Chinese leadership launched the Belt and Road Initiative in 2013, China sent its medical teams to Western Africa to help stop the Ebola epidemic. And in March 2015, they decided to publish the Belt and Road Action Plan, which identified 5 priority areas for advancing this project of the century: policy coordination, infrastructure connectivity, unimpeded trade, financial integration, and people-to-people bonds. Within these people-to-people bonds, it was promoted the development of the new component of Belt and Road Initiative, strong cooperation in the health sector on the epidemic information, sharing the exchange of prevention and treatment technologies, the training of medical professionals, and improving the ability to jointly address public health emergencies. Of course, in that purpose, China will provide medical assistance and emergency medical aid to relevant countries, carry out practical cooperation in maternal and child health, disability rehabilitation, and major infectious diseases.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have 1 more minute to finalize.
Okay. In October 2015, China's National Health Commission announced a 3-year plan to promote health exchanges and cooperation within the Health Silk Road. And in June 2016, President Xi Jinping called for increased cooperation in this component of BRI. And in January 2017, he visited the WHO headquarters in Geneva and signed an MOU on cooperation. In August 2017, the Chinese leadership organized first Belt and Road high-level meeting. And of course, so I will try to be a little bit faster. So when COVID-19 pandemic started, even China was in trouble. Over the last few years, China helped a lot globally, bilaterally and multilaterally. Until now, China has provided medical equipment to more than 150 countries and 13 international organizations. China donates 280 billion of masks, 3.4 billion of protective equipment, 3,000 million of doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Also, China donate lots of assistance to developing countries for economic and social recovery. Debt to least developed countries worth $2.2 billion was written off. Also, debt for 23 countries worth $1.3 billion were refinanced. So, as a conclusion, I can say that China's Health Silk Road is a good diplomatic initiative to promote health cooperation in a world increasingly threatened by proliferating the public health emergencies. And China began developing this component of Belt and Road Initiative long before the COVID-19 pandemics. That indicating a high level of awareness of the Chinese leadership for the need for joint cooperation in solving global health problems and building resilient health systems around the world. And this shows that China is a responsible great power, which is exactly what the Western powers have been asking of the Chinese leadership for years. So in order for the Health Silk Road to develop successfully, China needs to strike a balance between its dual role in global health receiving and making donations, and take care of its own interests as well as that of the majority of developing countries. At this moment, instead of the growing geopolitical rivalry, it is now essential for countries to contain the virus as soon as possible and restore normalcy to the economy of people's daily lives. Thank you very much.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce the second speaker, is Dr. Anahit Parzyan. Dr. Parzyan holds PhD degree in international relations from Nanjing University, China. She focuses on international security, particularly in cybersecurity, digitalization, e-governance. In 2017, she was selected to become a young expert scheme of EU-US-Armenia program to work for the government of Armenia. She worked on the development of national cybersecurity strategy of Armenia, focusing on critical infrastructure protection mechanisms and legislation. Anahit maintained several national cybersecurity national awareness campaigns in Armenia. In 2016, she joined the China-Eurasia Council for Political and Strategic Research as a cybersecurity team lead. Dr. Parzyan is a graduate of the Warsaw Euro-Atlantic Summer Academy. She occasionally presents her research on cybersecurity and digitalization issues in Armenia, China, and Europe. She's an author of several academic publications, on one of which was awarded with the honorary certificate from Nanjing University of China. Starting from 2020, Dr. Parzyan is appointed to be the Executive Director of North Technology and Awareness Center for Social Services, Foundation of Armenia, the leading technological center for digitalized social services. And Dr. Parzyan is going to speak about China's digital Silk Road pivot towards Eurasia. Dr. Parzyan, the floor is all yours.
Dr. Elamiryan, thank you very much for introductions. I'm humble. Thank you also, dear participants. It was a long journey, but we are halfway, and currently I'm using not the long-term technology, but the presence of mind here in this nice auditorium. Today, I'm going to speak about China's digital Silk Road and pivots towards Russia. And I'm going to share with you my presentation with the one that is going to be published in Routledge currently in this autumn. Half of this I will be present and share my ideas together today with you. Starting from 2013, when President Xi Jinping declared the start of the Belt and Road Initiative, China's fast movement to the outside market and collaboration links has progressed rapidly. In the condition of the open market world order, China succeeded in benefit and had to become an active player in the international trade. Despite the fact that Digital Silk Road was first announced and only part of the Belt and Road Initiative, it became an important issue of discussion, both on political and theoretical levels. Since the advance of technology and the control over data gained by technology may bring to shape another world order where liberal and autocratic systems will struggle for remote control of both global trade and political order. China unpacked its Internet Plus concept in 2015, which shaped a global trade and the new map of China to become a technology manufacturer from mainly a consumer. The strategic goal set very successfully implemented and boosted another jump to roll out China Standards 2035 that will aim to not only manufacture, but also become the standards implementer. This will absolutely change the world order, especially cyber world order, where the US enjoyed historical advance and set standards for the world from the position of technological hegemon. After COVID-19 crisis, digital services and technological development of states has become vital for fast public service provisions, as well as information sharing and data analysis. The acceleration of mechanisms of digital transformation became faster under crisis management conditions, and consequently, digitalization became a firm and important tool for state government. China's quick and comparably effective management of the pandemic was closely interconnected with various technological tools, partially leaning on surveillance techniques, thus providing needed but controllable information for government. China, with its technological advancement, is seen as a rising global technological power who tries to promote its model of state-led governance through BRE, which is based on capitalism, but limited in liberal values, quite controversial for other capital states that share the same liberal values and oppose China's controversial autocratic technological run. It is seen as a threat to the order that was formulated after World War II, fundamentally functioning under concrete norms and values that came to embrace goals of democratization and protection of human rights. At the opening ceremony of the first PR Belt and Road Forum held in 2017, China's President Xi Jinping specified main directions of the digital Silk Road. He specified and he talked about digital economy as a first component, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology and quantum computing, and advance the development of big data, cloud computing, and smart cities so as to turn them into a digital skill road of the 21st century. Of course, all of these projects were greatly supported by state, and that was the reason that they very quickly succeeded in their country, in the mainland China and in Hong Kong, and became one of the unicorns of the world digital economy. I would like to specifically talk about four main directions. The first one is digital infrastructure. Digital infrastructure building procedures have become a priority for many countries around the globe considering digital infrastructures that currently is implementing in different parts of the world and focusing to next generation networks, 5G technologies, and of course, data centers. China, with its DCR, Digital Silk Road, is stepping forward to implement its own technological infrastructures with an estimated budgeting of 79 billion to become the leader in setting international technology standards and governance norm bodies. Of course, Huawei and ZTE are the leading companies, and that's why we see also from different parts of the world, of the news, how they are opposed by different Western countries, particularly and basically because they become a political tool and not only digital part. The second part is the e-commerce. Thanks to its 904 million internet users, technological advanced infrastructure innovators, China has become one of the leading countries in e-commerce. In 2020, according to Activate Consulting Global, e-commerce reached 3.4 trillion, and 58% of the global e-commerce is concentrated in 6 companies, 4 of which are Chinese. So this is a major tool, particularly for advanced digital economy. The next one is the advanced technologies. With the advanced internet capabilities, China will export also technological achievements. Among those is the BDS-3 navigation system, developed by Baidu Navigation Satellite System, launched in 2020. What is the main part of this is that they have their own satellite system, quite fast functioning in cyberspace. That means they have real-time information anytime, particularly during war. Technology of quantum computing will secure connection for maritime usage, even not connected to Baidu navigation system, which will give privilege during wartime. So even if you don't have internet with the satellite system, you still have quantum computing system, which means you are absolutely sovereign in your decisions, particularly in wartime. Artificial intelligence is also among those main tools that are very much invested by Chinese government, and of course become one of the big reasons that China is developing products that are very much comparably very much competitive in the world market. Cyberspace can be considered as one of the most controversial topics in DCR, since it is the main technological aspect that is leaning on policy implementation and ideological differences. China's policy for cyberspace is based on cyber sovereignty, where major players are sovereign states and not just actors. Thus, the UN canon for sovereignty must be applicable also in cyberspace. Since this approach is controversial for Western countries, particularly for the US, as a historical leading country for technologies, as well as the supporter of free and open form of cyberspace policies, China is seen as a threat to global liberal order, since by technological surveillance tools, limited data protection mechanisms, China is seen to export not only main technologies, but also policy implementation and government control. Because of China's proactive cybersecurity policy through the group of governmental experts of the UN, the DCR was labeled a risk to international security. Consequently, technological advancement of China is currently very much opposed in policy implementation as well. Political and technical coverages of China's digital Silk Road and the Eurasian Economic Union is one of the reasons that China will try to boost its economy and its infrastructure, particularly digital ones, to the Eurasian region, and particularly the differentiation between the conception of cyberspace is one of the reasons. The confrontation on the cyberspace regulations brings to the divide between the US and Russia's initiatives, and the US-China's divide on technological market, pushing China and Russia to work together on setting standards and regulations, as well as for easy and more comprehensive cooperation. And I would like to conclude that China's digital Silk Road is becoming a mechanism of exporting Chinese technology to enhance digital connectivity abroad, extend its influence and diversity, its technological dependence on exercise technological superpower. Moreover, China's policy on cybersecurity that is greatly opposed and confronted by the US and its allies goes in line with Russia's, thus leading the country of the Eurasian Economic Union to cooperate in cyberspace, to maintain common digital regulations for both countries and for the whole region. The conjunction of the Eurasian Economic Union digital agenda and digital Silk Road of China can become a fundamental tool and roadmap for conjunction and for changing the rise of China, digital China, and the pivot to the Eurasia. That's all. Thank you very much.
Our last but not least speaker is Ms. Raisa Epikhina. She is a lecturer and researcher at Lomonosov Moscow State University and the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. Raisa Epikhina teaches courses in China's economy and its political and economic geography. In her research work, she concentrates on China's electricity industry and economic development issues, as well as economic relations between Russia and China. Ms. Epikhina studied Chinese language and culture at Tsinghua University in Beijing. She holds an MA in Asian and African Studies from Lomonosov Moscow State University. Ms. Epikhina is going to talk about the role of industrial policy in China's rise, a case study of the electric power sector. Please, Ms. Epikhina, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for the presentation. First of all, thank you for inviting me to take part in this conference. It's an honor to be here today and discuss these topics with you. I just realized that I probably should have prepared a presentation on the topic of China's energy Silk Road. That would be more in line with the previous presentations. That probably would have allowed us to see the variety of projects that China has been implementing along the Silk Road. However, I will try to say a few words on this topic during my my speech on the role of industrial policy in China's rise, and I'm going to talk about the development of China's electric power sector. And I just want to say a few words about the importance of this area of research when we talk about China and China's rise. We know that China is #1 economy by PVP. And I just want to remind everyone about the state of affairs in China's electricity industry. China is globally #1 in installed capacity. China is the largest country by electricity generation and by electricity consumption. China is classified as a developing country. However, China has achieved 100% access to electricity. It supplies electricity to 100% of its population. And it is actually a success story for a developing country to be able to develop its power sector throughout this relatively short period of time. And given China's economic structure, if we look at the structure of China's GDP, it has only recently changed to the larger share of services. And throughout most of the period of reforms and opening up, industry was the largest sector of China's economy and a huge consumer of electricity. And if China was able to build this large power sector, it wouldn't be able to rise as fast as it did, and it wouldn't be able to become this global economic powerhouse. It is also important to mention that China has also developed a lot in terms of technologies and power technologies. Here is just one example. There are 19 ultra supercritical thermal power plants in China, and this is the data for 2017. And it is interesting to compare this data to the US, because at the same period of time in the US, there was only one such advanced thermal power plant. And we will further look at different technologies that China has been developing throughout this period of 40 years of reforms, and you will see that China has really achieved success in various sectors of power generation and transmission and distribution of electricity. I just added this last point listening to the previous two presentations, because my colleagues talked about China's engagement with other countries abroad, and I wanted to say a few words about China as an investor, because China not only developed its internal power system with help of various energy policy and industrial policies, but also became a large investor and supplier of equipment for various electricity projects abroad. In my opinion, it is really important to look at this process in terms of both energy policy and industrial policy. If we look at research that has been published throughout these years about China's energy development and power sector development, there are various papers focusing on energy policy, and they cover this topic a lot. However, I believe that we may gain better understanding of what is going on if we look at a broader sector and think of it in a broader definition, like electricity generation and transmission and distribution, together with equipment manufacturing and construction of power plants. In this case, we can see the evolution of agenda of these policies in China. I think we can actually say that the period of 1978 to 2006 was a period of building capacity. By 2006, 2007, China built around 100 gigawatts of capacity each year. This is about the same size as the whole energy system of the United Kingdom, as far as I remember at the time. Since the 2006, China switched to import substitution, what I call import substitution of technologies in power sector. And by that, I mean that China started to promote various industrial policies to support development of technologies and advancement in equipment manufacturing. And since 2020, when Xi Jinping announced China's goal of decarbonization up until 2060, I think we can say that this is the new the start of a new period of development for clean energy in China. So if we look at the period that started in 2006, I think we can outline several industrial policies that impacted the development of this sector during this period. Of course, major directions of the development are outlined in 5-year plans. However, we can also see that China announced strategic emerging industries and has been updating the list of strategic emerging industries throughout these years since 2006 and up until now. And these industries include various key sectors that China's government wants to develop and supports their development. And these industries include green energy and new energy vehicles, nuclear power, and several other energy-related sectors. There are also several other plans that are outlined here on the slide. I'm not going to read and just save some time. I just want to mention that there have been several policies announced during the past 15 years that supported the development of this sector. And we can see that China has gone through transformation of its power sector during this period of time. The first line here in all 3 graphs is data for 2007, and the last one is 2019. And you can see that in terms of power generation, the production of electricity in 2007, the share of coal, the share of thermal power was over 80%. Today, it is less than 70% and it's declining. And you can see the increase in all sorts of non-coal and non-natural gas, actually, sources of energy. And we can also compare installed capacity. This is the data that illustrates construction of new power plants and equipment needed for this process. And we can compare total installed capacity by the year end and capacity installed in just 1 year in 2007 and 2019. And you can see that in 2007, most of the capacity that China built was coal. In 2019, most is anything but coal and mostly solar and wind. The picture is not as bright when we look at total installed capacity. Of course, coal is still king in China, and you can see that almost 60% in 2019 was thermal power. However, you can also see the sharp of non-coal related power generation in China. And this means that China actually produced this equipment. China did not depend on importing this equipment. China did import some technologies and some equipment, but actually developed its production base. We can also look at the data from the World Intellectual Property Organization and see that during this period of time, I think we already mentioned that China is known for becoming one of the largest applicants for patents in various areas of new technologies. When we look at the alternative energy patents, we can see that in a period of time from 2010 to 2019, China became the 5th largest country in terms of alternative energy patents, and most of them are solar, which correlates with this with the previous data on the construction of different power plants. And also, I wanted to show you some data on China's engagement in the global power sector and global energy. This is the data collected by our colleagues at Boston University, and they collect data from China Development Bank and the Export-Import Bank of China, the finance that they supply to various companies for energy projects outside of China. And as you can see, China, the first graph illustrates financing of various sorts of energy projects. And you can see that anything related to electricity is actually just a little bit less than oil and gas. And then when we look at energy subsectors, we can see that power generation and transmission and distribution are actually make up a large part of China's international energy finance. So how much does it cost? Can we replicate it? It turns out that it costs a lot. And it turns out that there are some difficulties in making central level goals being implemented effectively at local levels, because local level officials are often, their agenda may differ. Their agenda may focus on tax collections, on employment. So at the local level, I looked at some case studies, and it turned out that in solar energy, there were case studies of local government support for companies that didn't show substantial new innovative technologies and actually went bankrupt. And it means that some of the money supplied for the development of these new technologies and for industrial policy may have gone.
To intervene. I'm sorry to intervene, but you have 1 more minute to find.
Yeah. I know. Thank you. So I want to finish with the idea I just recently picked up from a famous China scholar, Barry Norton. And Barry Norton looks at it as China as a venture capitalist. And he looks at China and says that its approach is different. Its approach is like you invest in startups. And he said it's a very interesting idea. If you look at the ambitions of China, we can see that China invests in various projects, hoping that some of them will prove to be globally the best. And we can see that some of Chinese companies really achieve highest global level. So this may be just a food for thought for all of us to just look closer at the correlation between energy and industrial policies and the way they affect companies and development of the industry and China's going out strategies. So I will just stop here and thank you for your attention. I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Epikhina. And now it's my great pleasure to open up the panel for Q&A session. Friends, please, questions. No questions? Okay, in that case, using the privilege of, oh, sorry, please introduce yourself and. Please introduce yourself, and you can also direct your question to any speaker or to the panel.
Yes. Hello, I'm Nevar Chelikan, international relations specialist. I wanted to ask a question to my neighbor. I'm wondering whether there is any kind of cooperation between China and Armenia in the IT sector. I would like to know more about that, and especially whether there is any potential in cooperation for industry in like weapons or robotics or anything related to military and related to AI at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. This is an important one. Actually, by doing research on this field, I'm always pushing for a cooperation in cyberspace, particularly for China and Armenia, because China is really growing very fast and there are very much industries, especially for automation systems, and also for drone systems, which we face very recently, that we have
very big issues with that. Unfortunately, on the state level, currently we don't have particularly strategic cooperation on IT or in specific any field of the ones that you mentioned. But I think that we have very much opportunities, particularly since we're newly developing the infrastructure for IT. It will be much cheaper, and also it will be very much productive to implement and to use that infrastructure that is being produced in China. Particularly, it would be great to cooperate in artificial intelligence. It will be nice to do a research and to develop cooperation in academia in quantum computing, because this is a newly developed field, especially in the world, and in Armenia we currently are not reaching to that still, but it will be nice to have it in future. And also it will be interesting to mention about the digital tools that China is using for public services, particularly for social services. I would like to focus that attention, because digitalized everyday life for smart cities is very much productive for population, and it is quite transparent. So we do have a lot of work to do, and I hope that in future our state will cooperate on a strategic level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Dr. Elamiryan, if I may, please. I have a question for Dr. Arezina. Actually, Serbia has special relations with China. You have told us about Health Silk Road, which is very interesting to know. What about cooperation between China and Serbia in digital Silk Road? Is there any technological collaboration between two sides? Thank you.
If I can follow up on that a little bit, I wanted to ask the same question, but also regarding the health road, if it's possible to thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for questions. So yes, Serbia and China have a very good cooperation. We have a comprehensive strategic cooperation and comprehensive strategic agreement between two countries. Within that strategic partnership, we develop lots of cooperation in different areas, especially within the Belt and Road Initiative. But in the last 2 years, since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we start to cooperate also in the two new Belt and Road Initiative components, and that's Health Silk Road and Digital Silk Road. So we have a very good cooperation within the Health Silk Road. I think that Serbia was one of the first countries which took the assistance from the China immediately after the Italy, and during this 1.5 years we cooperate in that sector very strongly. China even decided to open the factory of the Sinopharm vaccines in Belgrade, and it will be opened probably in October 2021. So until now we had a good cooperation with lots of communication with the Chinese Ministry of Health, communication with mobile medical teams which came to Serbia to give advices to our Ministry of Health. They gave us assistance in masks, vaccines, medical equipment, and so on. Regarding the Digital Silk Road, we also have we started to cooperate and to develop some cooperation in this sector, but it goes slowly. Our Prime Minister is very she's very for her, it's very important that Serbia became a digital country. And in the last few years, she tried to develop Serbia digitally. And of course, in that sense, a cooperation with China is very important because China already started with its fourth technological revolution, and you know that most of Chinese technological developments you can't see anywhere else. So it's a good combination to have a friend such as China to take some know-how and some IT knowledge and develop our digital sector in the best way.
Thank you, colleagues. One more question from Dr. Sanja.
Thank you, and I have a question for Raisa and Epikhina. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. There are several Silk Roads in China: Silk Road, Economic Belt, Digital Silk Road, Health Silk Road, and our Silk Roads. Is there any plan in China to create energy Silk Road? If yes, is there any prospects for this kind of Silk Road, energy Silk Road? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, China is an important investor at the global level, and it builds power plants in various parts of the world. It doesn't matter whether it's developing countries or developed ones. It supplies equipment for various projects. It actually started so long before, but in 2010, so from 2010 to and on, it has developed its foreign projects, and now that now it's just a part of One Belt, One Road. So it's all these projects, they became part of the initiative, and most of them are in thermal and hydropower, but the share of renewable power projects built by China elsewhere in the world is around 11%, I think. And it's growing. And given that recipient countries are becoming more strict in accepting coal technologies and older technologies, China will probably increase its share of investment in renewable projects brought as part of Belt and Road. And given that, as far as I remember, in 2017 or maybe 2019, at one of the Belt and Road summits, they announced that China would build a greener Belt and Road, and this actually correlates with the type of technologies that China exports. Thank you.
Thank you, dear colleagues. As we're running out of time, I think no more questions we can take. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you for those who asked very interesting questions. I think we are finishing up with our panel. Thank you.